Hey everybody, it's Media Kaiser here, back again with yet another challenge video. This time we're going to remove ourselves from the Fire Emblem universe and jump into a little bit of Pokemon. We're going to be looking into the GameCube era of the Pokemon games, starting with Pokemon Colosseum. Now, Pokemon Colosseum is what I'd consider the first actual 3D Pokemon game, because we've had Stadium and Snap and stuff, but those were like battle Pokemon games. This is like a story based Pokemon game. It revolves around the concept of snagging what are called shadow Pokemon. Now these Pokemon are ones that have had their hearts artificially closed as to appear to have a shadowy aura. Only trainers have them in this region, which is known as the Aura region. So the purpose of the game is to go around snagging trainers' shadow Pokemon, and we can purify those Pokemon and use them on our team. However, for this challenge, I decided to say, hey, screw it, we're not even gonna deal with the shadow Pokemon. We're gonna try and beat Pokemon Colosseum using only the starter Pokemon that we get, without capturing a single shadow Pokemon. Now, the Pokemon that you start off with are Espeon and Umbreon, which are both really good Pokemon. But a little bit later into the game, we get a Plusle, which I will be using, but you'll know what I mean later. So, I guess to say the title, can you beat Pokemon Colosseum without capturing any Pokemon? Now, comparative to my last challenge, the rules for this are extremely simple. The only thing I'm limiting myself on is I cannot capture anything. No Pokeballs are allowed to be used at all, but I have full range on items, TMs, anything else I want to use in the game, I have the ability to. Now, the only thing I'll say is I'm not going to be using Mount Battle at all. Mount Battle is the only sort of area in the game that you can easily grind in. I mean, there's other sort of challenges you can try, but they're a little bit more annoying, like replaying battles and stuff, but for the most part, we're just going to stick to a non-grinding linear playthrough. Now, with the rules out of the way, we can just go right ahead and jump into the challenge. So, let's go. Now, the game starts with the opening cutscene, which you can see are two starter Pokemon. Now, we reach this outskirt stand area, and we have our first battle against Rider Willie. Complete breeze of a first battle. He's just got Zigzagoons. Next, he tells us about this place called Phoenix, which will test our strength. So we go ahead and head over there. Once we reach Phoenix City, we run into a couple of suspicious looking guys. Now, one of them challenges us to a battle, but we completely destroy him. He's only got a couple of Whismers. After that, we rescue the person that was actually inside of the package, a girl that we have decided to name Lily, because why not? Now, with her in hand, we go over to the mayor's office to warn him about the peculiar Pokemon that Lily has seen. Now, after that, we go over to the arena, where we face our next battle. It's against Team Snag'em's Waken, I don't really know. Now, he challenges us to a battle because we are actually ex-Team Snag'em, it's revealed. So we pretty much destroy his Pokemon. After that's done, since Lily's found out who we are, she still doesn't really care because she's like, oh, it's what you've done in the past, and it's kind of cool because this is the first Pokemon game where you're actually like an anti-hero type character. You're not a good guy at all. You're part of a criminal organization beforehand, and even if you've changed your ways, you're still like gonna have different thoughts than most people, so it's more of an anti-hero type person. After that's done, we go back to the mayor's house, where we're introduced to Mirror B, a extremely groovy guy and my favorite Pokemon character of all time, hands down. After he leaves, the two suspicious guys from earlier are revealed to be Foley and Trudley, who are his underlings. Now, they both challenge us to a fight again, and once we beat Foley, we go on to Trudley, who has the first shadow Pokemon of the game, a Makuhita. Now, this is where the challenge actually properly begins, because I have to knock out the shadow Pokemon instead of capturing it. Now, at least the good thing about knocking out the shadow Pokemon is going to be I'm getting more experience. So I wipe the floor with Trudley and move outside. Now, there are three grunts that were with Mirror B, a red one, a green one, and a blue one. Each of them have a different Johto starter, so you'd have Quilava, Bayleaf, or Croconaw. You can pick whichever one you want to have on your team if you're running a proper game. For me, I just picked the closest one, which was Bayleaf, mopped the floor with Verde, and left Now Mirror B said something about going to Pirate Town, so we go to Pirate Town. Simple as that. Now, much like Mirror B himself, Pirate Town has the best music, I think, in a Pokemon game. Like, if you don't snap along to this on your first listen through, I don't know what's wrong with you. So we make it to Pirate Town and challenge a bunch of the trainers there, and it turns out a lot of them have Shadow Pokemon on them. So there's no real challenges with these battles. We just take out the Pokemon individually. Now, my strategy a lot for the early battles is I team up on one Pokemon using Bite and Confusion and just rinse and repeat, essentially. Now, after we do a bit more story stuff, we're introduced to Duking, and we have to go get a wheel for the windmill that was lost in the construction lot where Silver put it. We come back and go through the Pirate Colosseum without much trouble. We move on to the final fight, and the only real trouble I have is against the enemy's Magnemite. Steel types are going to be a big pain for me in this challenge, because Confusion and like Psychic type moves are the best bet I have, and possibly Flinch Hacking. As a reward for beating the Colosseum, we get the TM Toxic, which is going to be extremely useful. I teach it immediately to Umbreon, just in case I need a stall out. After that's said and done, we get introduced to the Pyrite building, which it turns out that's where Team Cipher has their base. They mistake us for someone who wants a Shadow Pokemon, but once they find out our true identity, we have to go through and fight everyone. We make it to the top floor, where it's revealed that Mirror B is actually an admin for Team Cipher. We fight against a couple of his peons, much like Foley and Trudley, but these guys are a little bit more, how do I say, dangerous? The first one, Wreath, is actually a joke, comparatively. She has a Shadow Remoraid, which is the lowest level Shadow Pokemon so far, at level 20. She's not a problem. Now, Firma, on the other hand, is an insanely difficult for me to fight against. The issue I have with her is her Mantine. It's extremely powerful, so what I end up having to do is Toxic Stall it to death. But after that, it's not too bad. After that, we get out to the roof, and we go through the cave, Pirate Cave, which is where Mirror B is supposed to be hiding out in. Now, there are a lot of different trainers there, a lot of Shadow Pokemon. None of the trainers are really too difficult. The issue is managing PP, because there's a lot of trainers, and also it's a little bit confusing, the layout. If you want to go directly to Mirror B, you're going to have to either know the path or get lucky. I couldn't remember the path, so I just took whichever one. Thankfully, I found an area where there are a bunch of proteins, carboses, you know, those types of items. So that was nice. After that's done, we move on and face Mirror B. And Mirror B, by my lord, his battle music is beautiful. Everything about this character is just amazing. Now, his team consists of solely Ludicolo up until he has his Shadow Sudowoodo. Again, the Ludicolos are pretty much only using Rain Dance and Water Gun, so it's not that big of a deal, and Sudowoodo is easily taken out. After we beat Mirror B to the curb, we rescue the Plusle that was captured earlier. It's Duking's Plusle. Now, Duking actually lets us keep the Plusle, who is level 13. So, actually, I remember this on my first ever playthrough. I actually used the Plusle for some reason. Maybe because I was a little kid and I didn't realize that Plusle was bad. But Plusle will be kind of useful, because it'll be like, say, for example, Espeon dies, I'll use Plusle to revive. But yeah, if you actually want to train up a level 13 Plusle, go ahead, be my guest, but it's not worth it in a game where your starters are level 25. Anyway, after that, we move on to the next area of the game, Agate Village, where Lily is from. We go up and meet her grandma and grandfather. We do a little bit of exploring, pick up a few items here and there, and learn that there was some trouble in the cave down south. It turns out that a bunch of Cipher peons have taken over the relic area, and so we make our way through the cave and battle against Cipher peon Scrub. Now, despite being called Scrub, he has a pretty scary team. The main threat being his Shadow Hitmontop, who's level 38. Thankfully for us, we have Espeon, so I have Psybeam, so I'm able to really deal with the Hitmontop pretty easily. I also, by this point, have Confuse Ray on my Umbreon, so the combination of Toxic and Confuse Ray is going to be very helpful. After Scrub is taken care of, we learn of a threat happening in Mount Battle. Mount Battle has been taken over by Cipher. Now we travel over to Mount Battle and we go through a little gauntlet of trainers. Once we reach to about 8, we start fighting Cipher peons. Once we reach 10, we fight against the next admin of Cipher, Dakim. Now, docking is a pretty hard challenge for us off the bat. Starting off, he has a Metang, which is probably the hardest Pokemon for me to deal with this early, because it is Psychic and Steel. So it neutralizes any bite damage or faint attack damage that Umbreon can give, and resists Psychic type moves by 4 times. So Espeon's doing nothing to it. I do more damage doing Return than I do Psybeam. And Darkbeam's strategy is to protect with one Pokemon and Earthquake with the other. Now, Umbreon is a tank, so it takes no damage from this, but we actually have Espeon getting knocked out for the first time. When Espeon got knocked out, I actually forgot to get any revives, so it was up to Plusle and Umbreon. Plusle got one-shotted, and the only Pokemon that were remaining at that time were Golem and the legendary Entei. Now, this is a trend you'll see with the upcoming Cipher admins, but Darkbeam has an Entei. So my strat for him was to Toxic and Confuse Ray and Bite. So essentially, I'd be relying on Flinch, Confuse, and Toxic damage. With enough Hyper Potions and stalling, I was able to slowly whittle down the Entei and the Golem, and we beat Darkbeam. We rescued the area leader, Vander, and head back to Agate Village. Now, this was actually the point in the game where I thought I was screwed, because I thought you had to purify a Shadow Pokemon, because that's what Egan told us to do, Egan being the grandfather. But thankfully, we didn't actually have to do that, which is really nice. I got scared there. I was like, oh god, what am I doing? But we were able to just move on to the next area, thank god. This is actually also where you're able to use the name reader. So I changed Espeon and Umbreon's name to Shiro and Kuro because I'm a weeaboo. You know, just casual stuff. Next thing I do is I attempt to actually take on the Phoenix City pre-gym, which is the big gym in the middle. But after beating a few of the trainers, it turns out that you can't even beat Justy unless you have a full team of 6. So that's not happening. We have to head back to Pyrite Town and go into the Cipher building from before. And actually go to the elevator on the right. We're able to use that now. And we head into the Under, which is the place below Pyrite. Now there's a few trainers scattered throughout, so we take care of them. We run into the group Kids Grid, who are going to help us out on our adventures a little. We give them details about Shadow Pokemon, and they'll help decipher them. But anyway, next up, we move on to the next Cipher admin, which is actually pretty close. Literally, all we have to do is hop on the floating platform using the R-Disc, and we're able to move over into a building where there is a photo shoot happening, or some sort of thing. Now, to be honest, it might just be a news report, I don't know. But the next Cipher is Cipher admin Venus, who happens to be the star of the Under, I guess, something like that. Anyway, so we jump over and we have to fight her. She is a interesting fight. She has a Bayonet, a Delcatty, and a Vileplume, which are easy to deal with, but she has a Steelix. And if you know anything about Steel types and us, it's not exactly an easy challenge. So by this time, we're actually on par with her levels, except for her legendary dog. Now, she has Suicune, and all of the dogs are going to be the same level. All of them are 40, which is nice for us. It means we have a little bit of a leeway of levels. And all she does is spam Ice Beam on Shiro, which does literally nothing, thank God. So I'm able to just use Psybeam and bite and take care of him. After that, Venus tries to escape, and we try and chase her down. We have to run across a gauntlet of trainers, and the first one we actually make cry, which I sat on for like 2 seconds. I was like, this is hilarious. Anyway, we move on to the final trainer of this area, who completely and utterly kicks my ass. Like, it's bad. She has a Sneasel, which is Dark Ice type, so I literally have pretty much no way of dealing with dark types either. I have Bite, which does half damage, and I have Return, which does normal damage, but it's not very good. And the thing is, she has a lot of Pokemon, like she has a Survivor, which I need to use Espeon with, and Loudred is better for Espeon and all this stuff, so I actually have a really hard time trying to defeat this last trainer, this cowgirl trainer. But anyway, once we've reached the end, we try to corner Venus, but she tricks us. Because, you know, we're bad gamers. However, she does kind of mess up, and she leads us to the Cipher Lab. The Cipher Lab is the next area. And boy, oh boy, this area completely sucked. This is easily the hardest part of the entire challenge. There were so many trainers, or scientists, I guess. Like, if you've ever played, like, the original Pokemon games, you know that scientists normally have their Voltorbs, their Magnemites, their Magnetongs. Same here. Magneton is awful for me to deal with, because it's got Thunder, which does a lot of damage, and it, for some reason, hit, like, every time. And none of my moves do any damage to steel types. We gone over that, but just nothing happens to these steel types. It's insane. This place is also pretty confusing. So we go through a lot of hyper potions and a lot of PP, but we're able to eventually get to a point where an alarm goes off. So we hear this annoying beeping in the background. Also, in order to access one of the last doors, we have to do this DNA puzzle, which is just, there's DNA samples scattered throughout the lab, and you have to take them to this machine. And if you hit the correct combination, you can unlock it. I only did the first two, so it was pretty much trial and error for the last one. But there's 9, so if you spend enough time, like, well, actually 9, it's like 9 times, like, a lot. I'm bad with math, but that's a lot of possibilities, so you might be there for a while. Or you could just look it up. The internet's a pretty cool place. I use that too, yeah. Alright, anyway, after that, we pretty much move our way onto the last Cipher admin, Ein. Now, I actually expected Ein to have a lot more steel types, because, you know, the whole lab thing. But he has like an Altaria, a Lantern, a Golbat. Nothing that I can't really deal with. So, compared to the rest of the area, Ein was a joke. We defeat him and his level 40 Shadow Raikou, and we move on to the final area of the game. Now, there was a construction law earlier in the game that has now been completed into the Ryogam Tower. Now, our first little challenge is to defeat all of the 4 Cipher admins yet again. What sucks is Mirror B's music is different. He also has a Golduck this time, so it's not just Ludicolo's. And he still has his Shadow Sudowoodo, so in case you forget to capture it, or you're doing the same sort of challenge as me, you have another opportunity to capture the Shadow Sudowoodo. We beat him and get the red card, the red ID badge, something like that. The next one we fight is Dakim, who again does the exact same strategy as before, except this time it's a little bit more annoying. He has a Claydol and a Fortress that start off with. And his AI is a little better this time. He actually doesn't protect spam 100% of the time. So it's a bluff almost. I get bluffed out of attacking on certain turns. And like on the first turn, I double attacked the Fortress and he protected it. So the Dakim fight gave me some troubles. But thankfully, once I reached the end, it wasn't that bad. Because we just had to beat the Entei again. Which is level 40 by this time. And we've got level 50s. So I beat Dakim and I'm able to get the green ID badge. And we move on to Venus. Venus's team is a complete joke. She's got like a Raichu, a Blossom, a Mischievous, a Wigglytuff, and the Suicune again. Honestly, not an issue. By this time we have Psychic, so dealing with these guys isn't too bad. The only issue of this was I kept getting immobilized by Love, by the Bellossom, and I got paralyzed by the Raichu, so it was a little annoying, but nothing too bad. I went through this game thinking I would eventually get Crunch on Umbreon, but I didn't realize that he wasn't going to get it. So we've been using Bite pretty much exclusively since the very beginning of the game. So it's been kind of sad. We pick up the blue ID badge and we move on to the Ein fight. Now, much like the previous attempt, the Ein fight was a complete joke. The Rhydon did give me some troubles, but it wasn't anything that I couldn't handle. They went with the whole rain dance strat. Didn't really work for them. We beat the Raikou and pick up the yellow ID badge, and we move on to the center area. Now, after we unlock the center door that we need to beat all the admins for, we go to this sort of middle area where we fight a bunch of trainers. I get through all of them without a trouble. And we actually fight against Verde again. He still has his Shadow Bailey from the very beginning of the game. So he was very easy to beat because I just left the Bayleaf alive and attacked every other Pokemon. Just double attacked. Now, the one thing I haven't mentioned about this game is it's different from the newer ones in the double battle formula, because if you defeat a Pokemon and your second Pokemon hasn't had its move yet, it'll attack the next Pokemon that gets thrown in. It won't attack the other Pokemon that's still alive, if that makes sense. So I'm pretty much able to avoid the Bayleaf the entire time and just destroy his other level 40 or so Pokemon. Alright, before we can enter the final area of the game, we have a run-in with Gonzap. Now, Gonzap is the Team Snag'em leader, and he is terrifying. He has level 53s, which is on par with us at this point, but remember, we've been going through this game with 2 Pokemon. It's so weird how the level jump works, because you have level 40s in the area before. Ein was like level 48s, maybe like level 50, and this guy's level 53s. There shouldn't be such a disparity between the regular trainers and the admins. Sure, it makes the admins more of a threat, but it seems a little bit unfair. Thankfully though, he isn't too bad. The Shiftry did give me a lot of troubles because Shiftry's dark type, so I had to return and bite and also Toxic Stall. Skarmory, the Shadow Skarmory wasn't that big of a deal either. I actually got lucky and defeated it in one hit with a crit. Now, after that's done, before I actually head on to the final area, I decided I was a little bit scared, so I actually went back and went to go do a side quest. Between Venus and the end of the game, if you go back to the Pyrite Cave, you're able to fight against a guy called Miracle B. Miracle B is this self-proclaimed disciple of Mirror B, who wants to revive him or whatever. If you listen to the battle theme, which we'll be playing right now, it's like a sped up Nightcore. Nightcore is the word I'm looking for. Yeah, definitely Nightcore. Version of his song. It was kind of hard for me to fight because I was laughing the entire time. Now, these Pokemon aren't difficult. They're like level 40, but it's still a little bit of experience, and I get like 2 levels for it. Now, you can do it earlier if you wanted to, but I thought I wasn't going to even have to do it in the first place. Now, if you're feeling unsure about going into the final area, there's still the Colosseums that I haven't touched. So you can go into the Phoenix Colosseum, which has like level 40s. The Under Colosseum, which I believe has like level 50s. So if you are worried, you can jump into those. But I decided to just go balls to the wall and fight against the Gauntlet in the Colosseum. The Railgun Tower Colosseum battles are not fun. Each of the individual trainers were not very difficult. However, you must fight against 4 in a row without healing once. So, and then I ran into one of the second trainer had a Mightyena and a Sharpedo, so 2 dark types. So those were some slow fights. The next trainer, who happened to be a Cipher peon, which I expected all of them to be, but for some reason weren't, had a Houndoom, which was fun, but thankfully I was able to take care of it. None of the other Pokemon really gave me any troubles. There was a Cradily who stalled me out a little, but I stalled him out a little, so Poison's pretty nice. Anyway, we move on to NASCAR, the Team Cipher admins, Cipher something. But anyway, this fight is absolutely weird because there is no music that plays. It's just creepy. It's just nothing. His level jump is like, it's weird again. You had Gonzap who had level 30s, 33s, and then you have him who has only like level 30. Like the highest level is his Walrein, which is 56. The Walrein was the only one that really gave me a problem because a lot of his Pokemon had a weakness to Dark type, and he had a Blaziken too, but Blaziken just got one shot. Now his Shadow Pokemon was a bit of a problem because it was a Shadow Metagross. But the Shadow Metagross did a lot less than I thought with Shadow Rush, and I'm able to 2-shot him. Now, it actually turns out that that was not the final boss. There's actually another challenge after this. The mayor from Phoenix City, Escade, is revealed to be Evice, the leader of Team Cipher. It turns out that NASCAR was just a figurehead the entire time. Now, this fight is absolutely terrifying. The reason I say that is because his team is level 60. The jump was insane, so do not go into this battle unprepared by any means. He leads off with a Slowking and a Machamp, The Machamp was good for us because I was able to both outspeed and one-shot him with Psychic. Then immediately what I did next was I Toxic'd the Slowking because I know how much of a problem he is. Next up, he brings out Scizor. Now, Scizor I tried to confuse and just whittle down over time because the Steel type prevented me from using Toxic. Shiro actually got knocked out, so I had to use the Plusle strategy of reviving. Throughout this challenge, the main issue's really been that Umbreon has literally not died a single time, but Espeon kept getting targeted because it's the stronger, more offensive one, but it's also the less physically inept, or less physically adept version, I guess I should say. So obviously they're going to target the weaker of the two, so Shiro's not exactly tanky, so he goes down a lot. I'm able to actually knock out both the Slowking and the Scizor on the same turn. The next Pokemon he threw out were his Slacking and his Salamence. Now the Salamence wasn't the trouble, it got actually just straight up two-shotted by 2 Psychics. The Slacking, however, from full health will one-shot my Espeon with the Crush Claw. So my strategy was to just confuse Ray, hope and pray. And with that, he brings out his final Pokemon, his Shadow Tyranitar. Now, thankfully, his Shadow Tyranitar is 5 levels under everything else, so it's 55. The most annoying thing about this part was the constant Sandstream, so every turn the Sandstorm would go off. That was actually able to help me a little bit, as it was able to whittle down the Slacking's health a bit more. So I Toxic the Tyranitar and just slowly whittle it down while keeping my health up. And with that, I'm able to beat Evis, destroy Team Cipher, and beat the main storyline of Pokemon Colosseum. Now, there is actually a post-game in which you're able to collect the other Shadow Pokemon that you missed. So, I mean, the red guy and the blue guy. You're able to fight the Quilava and the Croconaw and get a few other Shadow Pokemon. However, the issue with this is once you go through the Team Snag'em hideout that is available to you now, you reach the end, you have to capture the red guy's Shadow Pokemon. If you don't capture it, you can't continue with the story. So that is unfortunately where the challenge will end, because we can't progress into post-game. But however, we are able to complete the main storyline of the game, and that's all that we really care about. Now, this challenge was a lot different from the other one. Now, jumping into this challenge, I sort of knew that the steel types, the dark types, the ground types were going to be my problems. And we had a little bit of hiccups here and there with Shiro dying and me having to revive constantly. Having the Toxic stall. Sure, it's a cheap strat, but it got me through the game. And honestly, this challenge was pretty fun. It wasn't terribly difficult, which I'm glad about. It was fun. That's the main thing. And it didn't require me to capture any Shadow Pokemon, so I didn't have to worry about that. I could use the money from the Pokeballs that you collected throughout the game and just sell it and then use it for potions. I didn't have to worry about reverse or hyper mode, any of the Shadow Pokemon stuff, no time flutes, no nothing. It was just it was literally the most bare bones playthrough you could have of this game. I would definitely recommend, unlike my last challenge, I would definitely recommend anyone to give this a shot. If you just want something to do, this is really fun. Overall, I had a blast making this video. Now, obviously, there were some things that I could have done differently. I could have just said, screw it, I'll capture the Shadow Pokemon and gone on. If you guys really want me to do that, go ahead and let me know. And I could always jump back into this and do like a post-game, pseudo post-game, where we go through like the Deep Colosseum, finish off the rest of the game. I go through the other Colosseums if you want to see that. If you want to see anything else, you have any suggestions for video ideas or whatever you want to see, go ahead and let me know in the comments. And if you haven't subscribed already to the channel, it would be greatly appreciated if you could go ahead and do that. That would really help me out. Thank you so much for watching, guys. My name has been Meteor Kaiser, and as always, peace.